level the.
Yeah, I'm Chris. This is Big Hops. I'm meeting Keir for the first time, I think, although I've seen you around.
Yeah, I worked on Darkest Dungeon 2.
That's what
so,
I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Did you talk about tools, maybe?
I did a tech toolbox at GDC. I wore like a sweater vest. I talked about like C++ defines
Okay.
and how you can use them to make some cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool how the like talks that go to YouTube really hit a lot of people,
Yeah.
and then it kind of slots them in
Yeah.
their brain.
Did you talk about like folders being a way to sort of arrange your game data?
Yeah. So
I
basically
remember
we
a bit
didn't
about
we
that.
didn't have an editor, so
Yeah.
it was basically like name it correctly and put it in the correct folder, and then it would automatically hook up.
Cool.
I'm a big fan of that because I feel like implementation of data can be very monotonous,
Yeah.
and also at the time it's like we were making a custom engine game, we didn't have an editor, and it was just the way to
Yeah.
get it going. Okay, let's start. What's your name and what's your game?
I'm Chris Wade, and I'm making Big Hops.
What is Big Hops?
Big Hops is a froggy action platformer where you play as Hop, a frog, and use your tongue to swing around, grab things, and solve puzzles.
Was it always a frog?
It was always a frog from the beginning. Yeah, that was kind of the wanting to use your tongue to kind of reach out and grab things was the hook that I thought would be good to add to platformers. So
3D platformers, historically one of the most difficult genres to make. Maybe kart racing, maybe is the other one.
Yeah.
How hard has this whole thing been?
Yeah.
And has it been hard from day one, or like what's the whole difficulty process
yeah,
of this?
I'm so glad you appreciate how hard the genre is. I've been working on this game for 6 years. The first 2 was just to make a platformer controller that feels really great, and then after that we started thinking about structure and like I don't know, like player progression goals and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say that it was hard so much as it just requires a lot of effort and calendar time to like put the game in front of many people and take notes and then do all of the notes, and you just have to do that 500 times, and so it is very arduous.
Did you have a lot of platformers I see have just like a test level
Yeah.
that basically the frog lives in till it's ready to be a real game?
Yeah.
What was that? What was that in this game,
Yeah.
if you did it?
Yeah. I did that from the start for the first 2 years when I was working part-time. It was kind of a sandbox, flat level. All of the stuff you could climb on and jump on was just like boxes placed around. And in that scene, you could use your tongue to swing on things. You could pull grapple switches. You could like grapple connect to wheels and walk around them to like interact with things. I did a lot of the one of the core interactions of the game is this veggie paradigm where you find veggies that have unique abilities associated with them, and one is a mushroom where you can throw it at a wall and it creates a bounce pad, or we have a cactus fruit that when you throw it at a wall it creates a tightrope to the opposing wall, or we have a bubble fruit that when you get near it you can use your tongue to hook shot into it and kind of shoot yourself in it as a kind of like a pool ball, billiards ball.
Did all of these live in the test level before like real levels?
Yeah, it was just sort of like a line of all of these plants that you could grab veggies off of, basically, and I just put them all in the same scene. And it's important to me, and an especially hard thing to do with this game, that all of those interactions can work with each other, and that was definitely the hard part of the game, was making it so you can use all of these interactions anywhere in any scene and in combination and have them like work.
And do you still use that test level to this day?
No, we don't use it anymore. We kind of made a dev cheats menu where you can like use a like Bethesda style command line to like spawn things and jump between places in the game, and now we kind of rely on that more. We never use that old test scene, but there is kind of newer specific like platforming metrics kind of scenes that we make for like new level designers to come in and like figure out like jump distances and jump heights and stuff like that.
How strict has that jump height been? How many iterations has how high that frog could jump?
I would say that we've been pretty locked down for the last 2 years, but recently we kind of had this. Can I get really specific and technical? Is that
More
cool?
technical the better.
Cool. So the most recently we had this kind of moment of playtesting a lot where we noticed players having an issue with or misunderstanding that you can hold down the A button to jump higher than if you just tap it. And a lot of our bouncy interactions, like the bounce pad or trampolines, like if you go into them holding the button, you get this variable jump off of bounce pads also. And we kind of accidentally, by the designers kind of internalizing that you should always hold the jump button instead of let go and you hit a bounce pad, we kind of tuned all of our bouncy pad things to be, if you don't hold it, you can't get to the place you're trying to get to. And so we would see new players like struggle and like try many times on these bounce pads, and it was like, do we teach them about variable jump height, or do we, how can we fix this? And what we ended up doing was changing the sort of underlying idea of jumping to include like jump parameters, and for each source of a jump to be able to define like, does this allow variable jump? Does it force variable jump? Or is it no variable jump? And now that's kind of fixed that problem, but we had to go back and kind of like fix a bunch of level design around that change.
That's very interesting that it feels like it's getting slotted into kind of like separate types.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of 3D platformers don't necessarily have like a bouncy pad,
right,
or that amount of like variability. I noticed you have like the Zelda-esque wall climbing.
Yeah.
That's where I recognize it from.
Yeah, it's totally inspired by Breath of the Wild.
Was there a lot of like analyzing other games, talks, like white papers, kind of like stuff like that when making this game? Like,
yeah, we didn't do that for the movement stuff, but we did that for our level design tools, which are all kind of parametric, meaning that you kind of define primitive shapes and then like extrude geometry out of them. So the most common one we use is called path shapes, and this lets you define a closed loop of points or like Bezier splines, and then you kind of pull up out of that to make platforms to jump on. And then we also made it so that you could take Boolean shapes and like cut out of them, and you can use kind of any number of combinations of doing that. And then you can also grab the surface or grab the top of this shape that you've created and rotate it to make like weird, different
and you're doing
shapes.
all this in like Blender or Maya or
No, this
something?
is all in Unity.
Okay.
Yeah, and we made a great custom set of tools so that we can do it all in Unity and keep our level designers in flow.
And then just keep being able to test it.
Yeah.
Was there like a set of 3D platformers, I assume from either modern day or your childhood, that was like the gold standard of things that you were thinking of when making this?
Yeah, I mean, Mario Odyssey is like the most similar kind of moveset, I would say, and kind of in the first year of development, I was like, let's combine Mario Odyssey with Breath of the Wild, and then like add frog stuff to it, and see and this veggie paradigm that I've talked about, and let's see where that takes us. And my goal the whole time was to, I was looking at 3D platformers that are coming out now or have been coming out in the last like 5 years, and it's all retro. It's all like trying to relive the nostalgia of the 90s, and I love those games, but we can do more, and this genre has more to do, I think. And so this game is trying to be like the next step forward by bringing modern design paradigms of like free player expression, letting you use all of the environment instead of like being locked to the nav mesh or whatever. And the veggie interaction paradigm, I think, is like our most interesting like paradigm, and the thing people are gonna remember when they're done playing the game. Like the surface when you enter is like, this is the frog game. But under that is like, oh, this is like really different from other 3D platformers, and
a lot of like gameplay that is coming out of you, interactive, multiple items and using them in different places. And kind of trying to like mentally understand that. Are you pacing that stuff out at all?
Yeah. So the structure of the game, the kind of demo we're showing is like the first hour of the game that's like a tutorial in the forest and ends in the desert. And from that point on, there's 3 worlds: the desert, ocean, and shattered mountain. And each one of those is like 3 or 4 hours long. And each one of those worlds has unique veggies, sort of 3 or 4 unique veggies with different abilities that you kind of get as you go through. And the cool thing and the exciting thing that makes it really hard to develop and know what to even QA is, once you kind of finish the first world and get to the other worlds, we let you go to shops and buy the veggies that you saw previously, And Hop has a backpack that lets you carry, you start with 4 slots and then you get up to like 8, and then we give you a special trinket upgrade that lets you stack multiple items. So you end up being able to carry around like 30 things on you at any time to like combine and like.
So there's a bit of a like I'm kitting out for like a journey part of this game.
Yeah, totally. Did I answer your question about the?
Yeah. I was just curious if it was like, like how, because one thing I find kind of interesting about like a lot of the modern Mario games, like even Galaxy Forward, is just like sometimes you're in a completely unique level.
Right.
Like you're like racing the penguin down the, I mean that's a 64 thing, but like there's kind of like a variety of things that kind of come at a weird thing, but is very engaging because you're like, you never know what the next step is going.
It's very bespoke and novel, and Mario games live on their novelty. And with Hops, we're doing much the same, where every 20 minutes you're getting a new thing, a new mechanic, a new veggie, a new. We have this system of. One of our main collectibles is dark bits, and when you sort of fill up a meter on your screen by collecting bits, and then you get a reward of a trinket, and each of the trinkets you get can be like placed on your backpack as a decoration where it like zooms in and you get to place it in a cool way. But each one of those has like a gameplay modifier that lets you kind of change how much stamina it costs to climb, or how many veggies spawn at each like tree or whatever, and you kind of get to build your kit out, like you mentioned, over time.
Because it feels like a character action game. Like it kind of feels more like where you're getting the abilities, but the abilities are items that you're interacting with the world with.
Yeah, and we also have the sort of RPG element of like, we're going to get you a bunch of these trinkets, you're going to be able to combine them however you want, and you over the course of the game get the ability to have more trinkets at once. And so through thinking about novelty, like we give you veggies, at regular intervals over the course of the game, and then at some point the player is going to notice, like, wait, I can use all of these. Like, I don't have to use only the one that this scene is giving me, and then it becomes really crazy.
Is there kind of a Metroid? There's not like a Metroidvania-esque part of it. Like, you're not seeing things you can't do.
There will be kind of secrets to find and like optional challenges. We have this idea of challenge rooms that are like these doors around that you find, and then you go into them, and there's sort of like a 2 to 3 minute fixed platforming or puzzle related challenge, and those are where we get kind of more intense or harder, or like expect of you to kind of use the veggies in more creative ways. But overall, the structure of the game is like mostly linear, I would say, and we do sort of linear path into like a hub, and then there's spokes that come back to the main hub, but it's relatively linear, and it's has a strong narrative focus, so it's kind of important that it's linear and you see things in the right order.
And the aesthetics of the game remind me so much of that kind of like, not graphically, but in the conversations you have with people and the way the camera angles are and the animations coming of that kind of even older platforming time. Was that something that you guys were like trying to do, where like often they are like animals and like?
I think it's interesting. I think people will be surprised in a good way by the way that on the surface it seems like it's kind of twee or simple, or it's like it all doesn't matter and it's just a platformer game. But our focus on story and characters serving, having things that they want separately from you, and the narrative being grounded, and your motivations like being clear and mattering, and changing with twists over time and stuff. We really have invested in that stuff in a way that is uncommon in the genre. So we are definitely inspired by those old games, and like I think the presentation of dialogue and like how many NPCs there are to talk to is like something we pulled from like old Zelda games. So honestly, I think Hops will be more similar feeling to a Zelda game than to a Banjo or a Crash Bandicoot or something, or Spyro.
And what's there left to do?
Yeah, what's left to do? We have the whole game playable front to back, and it's about 15 hours, and we're just iterating on it, just going back over it and fixing things. And there's 2 boss fights that are very busted right now that we need to just like redo. So
is this one of the earlier shows you've shown the game?
Yesterday, the day of the devs at the Midway was our first show. So
wow.
Yeah.
So you've had a lot of work into it before, like a first public show.
Right. Yeah.
How's that been? Like, has it been immediate? Like, oh no, we got to fix all this stuff, or has it been like immediate like gratification for all the hard work you've done?
Yeah, gratification and stability. Like I've demoed a lot of games before, and this is the most stable demo by far. Like I feel good leaving and knowing it's not gonna like be busted coming back, and people get it. Our tutorials are strong because you've done a lot of like
people are playing
friends
for a
and
long
family
time.
playtests.
Like that's cool. Like watching just somebody sit down for like 15, 20 minutes and just like enjoying.
Yeah, if you play through the full demo, it's like close to an hour, like 50 minutes, an hour probably.
Yeah. Was that like what was the thought process around that?
We just like are very excited to share all of the paradigms, and we have a lot to teach. Like there's like platforming stuff, then you get tongue stuff, then we like give you the first veggies, and then close to the end of the demo you get the backpack for the first time that implies like, oh, I get to bring these with me and decide what veggies I'm going to bring forward. And it felt important to just have the backpack moment, and that's just kind of far into the game.
Fantastic. Thanks for being on the Question Bus. Is there anything you want to plug?
Keep an eye out for this summer. I think it will be in June. We're going to do a free demo of the game online where people can play. It'll be the same demo we have here.
Will it be part of an X Fest or something?
I'm not sure. We're still kind of figuring out if this next fest will be better or the latter one.
Yeah. But coming out soon-ish.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of whether it's next fest or not, summer we'll be doing a demo. And
what platforms are you confirming at this point?
We haven't announced anything yet. Steam for sure, and we'll be on at least one console, but can't say yet.